Welcome to the Project, the podcast with the mission to cover every project throughout pop culture and history. I'm Sam.
And I'm Lewis.
And this week we watched The Hummingbird Project.
We did. 2018 film starring Jesse Eisenberg.
And Alexander Skarsgård.
Yeah, it's a long old film.
It is long, yeah. It was an interesting watch. It's definitely different to what we've been covering for the last 7 or so weeks.
I was going to say, it's, as much as I enjoyed the 7 weeks of Project Icon, it's nice to be doing something different.
Absolutely.
And back to what we used to be doing.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say it's not quite in our B-movie repertoire or C, D, all the way down to Z movie.
So it's Zaccarino.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm looking forward to talking about it. But before that, we do have time codes in the episode description. So if you want to skip straight to The Hummingbird Project, you can do so. If you're a massive Eisenberg head, Eisenhead, Jesse head, or a Scars head. Anyway, yeah, if you're one of them, you can skip straight ahead. We've also got personal projects towards the end. We'll be talking about a couple of things that we've been watching, reading, doing, dancing, etc. So feel free to skip ahead to those. But before that, how are you today, Lewis?
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit ill, to be honest. I'm generally all right. I think the last couple of days in the evening, when you just start getting a bit of a blocked nose and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. So I feel like something's coming. Oh no. But overall, fine. It's been sunny.
Yeah, it's been nice weather today.
Yeah, it's been busy, but fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. It's pretty similar to that. Yeah, enjoyed a bit of the weather today. Went out for lunch. So that was nice. I got a bit of sun while I was out, which was very nice. Busy weekend as well. Eurovision was on, wasn't it?
It was on. Yeah. Did you watch it?
I didn't watch all of it. Watched bits and pieces. Tuned out for about an hour towards the end and started watching something which I might talk about later. I had it on my phone so I could catch when the final results were coming in. But yeah, also missed the first hour because I thought it started at 9.
I also thought at 9, so I was going to talk about those personal projects. But
I think it's because I told you it started at 9.
Maybe that's why I thought, because then I told other people, because I went to Eurovision party and we were like, it starts at 9. I think I got it from you and then told them. But I was coming from London, and I kind of got to this party, Eurovision party, at 8:30, and we were like, "It's fine, we've got a bit." And I was like, "I'll stick it on now to do it." And it was like the 7th song. We were like, "Shit!" So rewound it back to the beginning, and then kind of when they do those shots of different places,
you kind of
skip past that,
and then when catch up eventually.
Yeah, once all kind of the singing stopped. When they recap it and have some couple of guest singers, we just fast forwarded half an hour. And we're there when the points came in.
Fair. Yeah, it was pretty entertaining though. I haven't watched one really at all for a number of years. So yeah,
I think last year's songs were better. I think I thought the first couple were pretty good, and then after that there was 10 bang average songs.
That was all the ones that I started on.
I was like, oh, okay. Then it picked up a bit. There was some fun entrance, as there always is.
Who would you have preferred to win? Off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head, I liked Germany, which was
I really liked Germany too.
The guy in the weird tight
I
liked Finland. I was gutted they didn't get at the
second one, right?
Yes,
as in second place.
I liked Australia with their
was
metal
cool
guys.
As well. Yeah.
There was some cool ones. The UK one was shit. Back to standard for us.
There was a lot of vocals being really quiet. UK especially was one I noticed. It was an okay performance and the song was okay, but it felt like she was we've been covering Icons, so I felt I was very switched on to it felt like her vocals were either really low or she was singing too quietly, and I was like, it's not especially, I mean, you didn't watch the guest people. Did you see Sam Ryder perform?
No.
His was the best one by far. It was better than any of the other ones that I saw that night. It was crazy.
I was saying to Christina actually, it's definitely the sort of thing that he'd get a Project Icon person to do in the future, because I hadn't heard of Mark Millar before this. Sam Ryder was a TikTok guy. They're not much bigger than the Project Icon team.
No, I don't think he was. No, especially some of those followers and views that some of the Icon guys had.
Barry for Eurovision 2024. But it was good fun. It's one of those we had a spreadsheet all putting our ratings and comments on throughout. So it's kind of fun or watching it as a big group and getting progressively drunk as you watch it. Have the classic drinking rules at the end when the points come in, where you drink if the UK get points and drink if the country you voted on average have the lowest points drink, which was Estonia for us, and they kept getting fucking points, and it was like, fuck, Estonia again.
Oh, nice. No, I would like to do a Eurovision party at some point. So yeah, maybe next year I'll make an appearance. No, we weren't even drinking or anything. We were just kind of chilling. We made some like nachos and stuff. Had a bit of like a low key vibe party going on. But yeah, it was fun to watch. Yeah, I will check it out again next year. So yeah, but yeah, that's all I've got there. So what is the juicy first segment, Lewis?
Oh, do you mean? Project news.
That's it. I thought it was going to be a long one then.
Yeah, well, there's like 6 shorter ones, and one of them is a bit longer than the rest. And it happened to be that one. I always forget which one. But yeah, it's project news. As always, I've googled the word project, seen what news has come up. Bit slim pickings this week, but I did find one that is fairly interesting. There's not a lot in the article, but director tapped for new Blair Witch Project film. Ooh. So obviously there's 2 Blair Witch sequels, Book of Shadows, like right after, and then Blair Witch,
one without project in the title,
like 7 years ago,
which I really really liked, to be honest.
I remember you talking about it maybe when we did the Blair Witch Project.
I can't remember if David had seen that as well, but yeah, it's a good modernization. It kind of amps up all the horror sides of it.
But yeah, it looks like we are getting enough one. There's just there's not much news on it at the moment, except they've got a director.
Cool. Does it say what they've been?
Yeah, Oliver Park, who did The Offering, which sounds like a horror film.
Oliver Park. No, I can't. Oh yeah, I can see The Offering there. Don't recognize any of these other films here, but I mean, if he's got a good kind of flair to him, then all good for him.
Yeah, it's being produced by Haxan Films, who did the original as well. So. Cool. Hopefully it's pretty good. Wow. Hopefully they call it the Blair Witch Project and not just Blair Witch.
Well, I mean, we could cover it either way, because if it's without project in the title, we can do it for silver screen.
Yeah, true.
And we could probably do it both ways, to be honest. We could silver screen it and then main episode it for the main thing.
Yeah, but yeah, that could be interesting. Cool. I mean, although like we live in a world where it's constant sequels and reboots. The fact that the fact that we've got so many like Evil Dead films and like Resident Evil films. Yeah. I kind of feel like I'm almost surprised there's not more Blair Witch films.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Did it say reboot or did it say sequel?
It doesn't specify.
Because I can't remember if the newer one, I think it is a sequel, but it's like soft reboot, as in they go, oh, this happened years ago, kind of thing.
I think because the story's basically withheld itself.
I think it is a sequel. I think it's the brother of the main girl is coming back or something.
Because it's some people went into a woods and died. Like you don't even need to say whether it's a sequel or reboot. You just have a different group of people going to the woods.
Yeah, exactly. Same with the Evil Dead films. Although the 2 newer ones have been soft reboots, they haven't exclusively said, definitively said that they're not connected. I think even in the new one, they're like, oh, there was 3 of these books found in different parts of the world. And it's like, okay, that could be each of these 3 ones here.
And it's not like Halloween where you've got like a central like villain.
No, exactly.
Who comes back every time and you're like, oh, what's he done? Did he do that stuff in that film? Is he actually related to that person?
Is he the long lost brother or whatever?
Yeah.
Or is it shaman curses or something they said? I don't know. We didn't watch all the ones in between, did we, with Halloween?
So yeah, I think they could do all sorts. And why not? They could make a really good one.
Yeah.
So,
well, they did a few years ago, but they can make another new
another really good one that
I will see. The title, so Lewis will watch it. Yeah.
If it doesn't, we still might watch anyway, depending on when it might be a few years away yet.
Yeah, see if we're still around. Podcast wise, not us, but both apply.
I thought it was the murder suicide pact coming in.
There we go.
That's a special for episode 100.
Yeah. Oh God.
We'll get Amy to put the episode out after.
Yeah. Well, no, it's murder suicide. Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah. We'll both be dead.
Okay.
Well, maybe we'll film that episode too.
We're gonna film it.
Oh, if we're gonna do a murder suicide, why not?
Bloody hell, you've thought about this more than me.
Episode 100, just 9 episodes away in 9 weeks.
No, I'm scared.
But yeah, that's project news for the week, which means we can go into the main topic, which is 2018's The Hummingbird Project. That's not a hummingbird.
They don't make an out noise, really.
Yeah, so I've got some of the background info. It was written and directed by Kim Nguyen, which is a great rhyming name there.
Yeah.
The only other film he's kind of notably done was War Witch, which won Best Picture and Best Director at the Canadian Screen Awards.
Okay.
The first
War
Witch.
Wow, that sounds fun.
I did look it up. It's a war film.
Let me guess. There's a witch.
I don't think there is.
Oh, fuck.
I can't remember which war it's set in, but it was some.
Is it like I've got a picture of it here. Oh,
yeah.
That's not what I expected at all.
Well, can't say I looked much into it, but apparently it was quite good. So good track record.
It's a Canadian dramatic war film.
Yes.
Sub-Saharan Africa during a civil war.
There you go.
Yeah, it was shot in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Lovely.
Cool. Like the Dinosaur Project.
Although I don't know if that was ever shot there, was it? It was set there.
Yeah. So starring, we've got some big names in this. Jesse Eisenberg plays the lead.
Yeah.
When I went through his filmography, there's a lot more that I haven't watched than I realised. Like,
for Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, I was well, actually, I've only seen like 4 or 5 of his films.
Yeah, I feel like if someone were to ask me how. The next person you're going to mention has a very interesting picture on IMDb. If someone to ask me, I would be like, yeah, I've seen a lot of his films. I've probably seen. Well, do you want to list some of them? And I'll tell you if I've seen them.
So Zombieland, which I only saw for the first time 2 or 3 years ago. It's pretty good.
Last year.
What?
I think it was last year.
Last year. There we go. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was as good as people said it was.
And the sequel was fine, wasn't it?
Yeah. The Social Network,
yes,
which people loved.
Yes.
It was one of those films which we may get into in this, which I was like, I watched it knowing that like people loved The Social Network, and I was like, the acting's great, the directing's great, the editing's great, the storytelling's great, but it got about 2/3 of the film, and I was like, I really don't give a shit about how Mark Zuckerberg became a billionaire. Like,
I mean, I feel like this has a little bit more stakes in ways.
Yeah,
I don't know how much, because we'll talk about it. This is semi-based on reality.
The Social Network.
I think this feels a lot like him redoing Social Network, not necessarily as a character, but it's that kind of film, and it's 8 years after Social Network, something like that. It just feels like, I like doing that film. I'm gonna just do that film again. With it,
But yeah, I remember getting to that point where I was just like, I don't care about Mark Zuckerberg. And then it kind of ruined the rest of the film for me, because I was like, I don't care. He was in the Now You See Me films.
Oh, yeah, fantastic.
I enjoy the first one.
I think they're very entertaining.
I couldn't tell if you're being serious.
No, I really like them. They're not great films, but
I think the first one's entertaining, although the plot twist at the end is ridiculously stupid.
It's so good. It's so funny. It is on par with the Fast films in terms of it just gets so stupid so quickly.
It's one of those where it's like, I don't know whether I'm meant to believe if magic is real or not.
And in the second one, they obviously take it further in certain ways, but they still try and explain stuff, and it's like,
the second one I don't think's any good. I think that's just a bad film.
There is that amazing card scene where they're throwing the microchip around. Like, there's some,
that's great.
I mean, there's talks of a third one of them, so we might be covering it in the next couple of years.
And it's Now You See Me 2 is the worst titled film in film history.
I mean, they still got a chance to Now You 3 Me, so
and then obviously the other big Jesse Eisenberg film is Batman vs Superman.
Yes,
which was a thing. We went to a midnight showing of that.
We did, and
dressed as Batman and Superman.
We did, and we had a friend who dressed as Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Yeah, someone was Commissioner Gordon as well. David
was Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
According to this, actually, he is in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah,
so
he was in Justice League.
Was he in Justice
League? He was in the post-credit scene with...
Oh, yeah, but... It says here uncredited. So
he's
like, we need to make a league of our own.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, shut up.
But yeah, the less said about Batman vs Superman, the better. Probably.
But Zack Snyder's Justice League, all 4 hours of it, may be gracing our screens in the next couple of months.
Really?
Yeah.
What, cinema release?
No, it's in, we might have to watch it for our Silver Screen project.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I haven't actually seen that one. So.
No, I haven't either.
Partly because Justice League was so bad.
Yeah, and 4 hours is
yeah, it's a lot of bad.
The thing is, well, we'll talk about it, but the bad parts of it aren't what was fixed in in the new one. Those are they. From what I can tell, it sounds like they made it worse. They made it longer and they made it more Zack Snyder, and that's neither of the things that I wanted in this film. She wanted something different. So anyway,
his performance in Batman and Superman is wild.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like who's it supposed to be? It's not J.J. Abrams. It's like Max Landis or something. It's like he's doing like another filmmaker as his like persona. It's just
strange. We've also got in this Alexander Skarsgård of the famous Skarsgård clan.
Yes, and his picture on IMDb is him in a tuxedo jacket, socks, shoes, and seemingly nothing else.
Yeah, like some premiere or something. Yeah.
He's got pants on. You can just about see.
He was in Zoolander. Early on, he was one of the male models that dies at the petrol station.
Yeah.
Very funny. He's funny in that. He's like short blonde hair and plays one of the male models.
Yeah.
He was in Battleship. Did you ever watch Battleship?
I never saw that. No.
Nor did I. He was Tarzan in The Legend of Tarzan.
I didn't see that one either. Did you watch that?
He looked quite good as the role. I was like, but apparently it wasn't very good. He was in Godzilla vs Kong.
Yes.
I kind of forgot he was in that.
Yeah, I mean, as we've said before, the human characters rarely make an impression in those films. Yeah. And he was obviously one of them.
And he's currently very popular in Succession.
See, I haven't watched enough Succession for him to have made an appearance.
I think
I've watched about
season
4 episodes.
3 and 4, I think it said.
Okay. He was also in The Northman as well.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Why wasn't that on? Why didn't I see that?
I've got his whole thing up.
The Northman is possibly his best film. I mean, I really like Godzilla vs Kong for different reasons. The Northman was just really, really good though.
Yeah. This is next role after Godzilla, actually.
That makes sense. Skarsgård I probably like Stellan more.
He looks different in this, doesn't he? I mean, it's mainly just their hair.
It took me ages to realise it was because I made a point not to look up the stuff. Partly because of that episode we watched that had William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy in.
Yeah, that's well for you.
I was like, I'm not gonna look up who's in it, and it must have been a good hour into the film. And I was like, wait a minute, that's Alexander Skarsgård.
I think I'd seen that he was in it, and then had a similar thing. Like,
he's got like glasses. He's got a.
They've done like a fake,
head,
like,
and he's got like a hunchback for a lot of time.
There's some, he's an interesting character. I don't really. I mean, I think I know what they were going for, and whether that is,
sometimes he's got a Russian accent as well.
Yeah, I feel like it's slightly problematic, the depiction there. I think I know what they were going for.
It's also got Michael Mando in, who I only know from Spider-Man: Homecoming and Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I was in Better Call Saul, so I haven't seen that. He was also in Far Cry 3. He was the villain of that. So quite memorable, kind of crazy character in that.
In the first 2 or 3 seasons, he's after Saul is probably the main character of Better Call Saul.
Really? Okay,
he's really good in it. And I was like, and obviously he's in Spider-Man: Homecoming as one of the henchmen who may or may not be Scorpion.
I think they do call him Matt Gargan, so I think it is him, but he's just disappeared off into the Sonyverse somewhere, isn't he? And then also it's got Selma Hayek in, who again, when she first came in, I was like, is that Selma Hayek? And it is, who again is not in as much films as I thought she was in. So she's in Wild Wild West with Will Smith. She was in Spy Kids 3. Okay, yeah.
She was in Puss in Boots, both of them, as Kitty Softpaws.
Yes.
She's in The Hitman's Bodyguard and The Hitman's Bodyguard's wife.
I think I've seen a bit of that on TV, yeah.
I never saw them. She's obviously in Eternals, which we saw recently. She's fine in it.
If you like that kind of stuff.
And recently she was in House of Gucci.
Yeah, haven't seen that.
Which I did not see. So I was like, I have not seen a lot of this stuff.
She is also going to be in the new season of Black Mirror, which comes out in the next month or so.
She is. So the Google description is Anton and Vincent, 2 ambitious cousins, develop a strategy to tap stock market data a millisecond faster, which will help them beat their opponents and yield a tremendous profit in the process.
Yeah. So there's quite a lot of there's periods where they explain this, and I feel like I haven't seen The Big Short, but I know that parts of The Big Short are them kind of explaining the technical side, the kind of
bit more
financial
explicit
side.
than this.
Yeah, whereas in what I think you've mentioned either on pod or in person, and there's parts where there's the part with Margot Robbie explains it or whatever, and it's kind of quite artistically, stylistically done. Yeah. Whereas in this, we spoke just before pod, there's a part with, I think it's even the opening scene or the second scene where Jesse Eisenberg's character is talking to this investor, and it's supposed to be a bit unclear what they're talking about, but it made me feel like I didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah, and like it's one of those things where like just reading that, I was like, it's a pretty boring
that
thing.
That sounds thrilling, doesn't it?
Yeah, like, and for ages I thought they were talking about taking a second off, but it turns out it's actually a millisecond, shows how much I understand it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like they're just trying to make like the stock market slightly better. And it's like
the way that it gets explained like later on in the film is that it's to do with like pre-buying shares ahead of the competitor by having a faster internet connection so that they can get in literally a millisecond before and pre-buy it, and they'll only make, he says, like $10 per whatever in the kind of theory, but then because that stocks up into all the milliseconds, it kind of
I mean, like,
I'm profitable.
I'm no expert on Wall Street.
Really?
Yeah.
What about your second podcast, the Wall Street Project?
Shh. They're not meant to know that's the same guy. But like I can't, like, there's certain things I don't understand. So like, they need to get the data from Kansas to New York a millisecond quicker so they can make billions of dollars. Why don't they just set up another office in Kansas? Surely that'd be cheaper than building this line. Yeah,
that's a really good point. I mean, I think that I don't know the answer to that, first of all. But I think part of it is that it all has to be done at the New York Stock Exchange or something like that. But then I don't know where but then like is the main internet
what's in Kansas?
I don't know. they say, it's the Kansas something, the KZL or something. Yeah.
And if you can't set up an office there, just have a guy on a phone there.
But that's not quicker than...
It wouldn't be quick. But yeah. So before we get into the film properly, do you want to have a guess at the IMDb rating?
I've probably seen this because I've been on.
You did just say you were on IMDb.
Yeah, so. I mean, I've closed it now. I've started trying to Google what the Kansas thing is. I've got the KCIX, the Kansas City Internet Exchange. That probably is what it is. I'm gonna say like 6.7, and that might be exactly right.
It's not exactly right.
It's close.
It's close, and it's a number that kind of looks like a 7. If you put another line on the bottom, it's a 6.2.
Okay, yeah.
So not bad.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Rotten Tomato 58%. So more people liked it than didn't like it. But yeah. So I mean, before we get properly into the film, like with The Social Network, there was parts of this where it's like, I don't really care about if they succeed or not.
I think it doesn't do a very good job of setting the stakes early on, and the stakes come when we find out that, I think he's called Vinny, is he?
Vinny,
Jesse Eisenberg's character. We find out that he's kind of potentially terminally ill. He's got a disease. He's got stomach cancer. He's got stomach cancer, and that kind of sets the stakes in that he has to make the choice of whether to pursue the project that he's just started and he's got all these investors, or if he's going to do the treatment. And I feel like from that point on, I was like, okay, I can see where this is going.
Yeah, it's
but that's like 30 minutes in or something. Yeah, it's like,
it's better if you like focus on the characters than the story, because otherwise a lot of it is Jesse Eisenberg running around getting places to jail, and Alexander Skarsgård sitting in a dark room coding, and it's like, I have no idea what he's coding, and he needs to make the time a bit quicker.
Is not very effective at all, because there's lots of parts where it keeps showing the screen, and it's like, it's only the second or third time we saw that. I don't even know if we see it 3 times, that I was like, okay, I can kind of see what these numbers are saying, because one of them's like targeted one, and then one's like actual one, and then one's like the amount they've saved or whatever, and I'm like, this is not clear like filmmaking. It's not is only when he has the conversation with the guy on the phone, and you can kind of see he's making a breakthrough. But even then, I'm like, is this good or bad for them? I just don't understand.
Yeah, it's. I will often complain that like they explain everything like this an EMP is an electric.
Yeah, but I would have liked a bit of that.
But I would have liked some of this, even if it was just like wacky, like mumbo jumbo. Well,
yeah, because the bit where it's also there's some weird stuff like the pie part where he's talking to the woman in the bar. That is that just extra exposition? She wasn't a spy.
No,
that didn't relate to the and it's just like,
and he's got a wife and kids for parts of the film,
and they're just like. It's just like it's bizarre. Like you mentioned the parts where like they're going to go get the people to because a lot of this film revolves around they're trying to make the long part, the straight path under the across America, across half of America. And I really like the parts where they go and talk to different people and they're trying to basically pitch it to them. The first time they do it, it's this guy and they go up to him and initially he's like, I don't want to sell my land. But it's like, oh, it's only 12 inches wide and it's 10 feet underneath or whatever, and it's like it's not going to affect you. And like those were kind of fun little bits. There's the bit with the Amish community later on. Like I thought that was quite interesting, but there's lots in between. Like there's characters that come in, there's the lady they get in who's a specialist of something, and like just nothing happens with her character at all. Michael Mando's character, Mark or something, like he's quite good, but again nothing really happens with him.
There's a lot of that.
And I wonder, because I didn't look into it, and I don't know if you have, or we might be able to while we're kind of talking it through. It is based on a true story in some way.
I have some trivia.
Okay,
you've
got some trivia. Talk about that after. And part of that makes me think, like with the Social Network, there's in real life there's not a beginning, middle, and end. So maybe part of the reason that these characters don't have a fulfilling arc is because that's just what happened to them. But you're making a film, like add a bit of extra drama in, like do something to make these. Otherwise you needed like 3 characters in this. You needed the cousins and Salma Hayek to shout down the phone. Don't even introduce anyone else. Like it just
there's so much more in this film that needs to be, that's already a fairly like dense topic.
And there's some nice shots in this. There's some nice kind of montagey bits between scenes that I appreciated because they look nice, and there's some parts. There's a part where it kind of juxtaposes the drill going in with him having like the esophageal exam, and there's some fun little bits. It's not fun because he's about to be diagnosed with cancer, but like there's some like bits that have clearly been thought through. But there's just so many bits that feel like dead weight in this film. That's just
So
it's a shame.
Let's go into it. There's many bits this we'll just skip through. Like we mentioned that opening scene where it's just like I have no idea what he's talking about. He wants to build a line across America,
and like then the guy's like, "Hey, how can I trust you?" And he's like, "You can trust me." And he's like, "How can I trust you?" And he's like, "When I was young, I used to be a plumber, and then I got knocked out, and I saw a figure that said, 'Don't give up on the line' or whatever." And he's like, "And then I never gave up on a line." And it's like, what? Like, what's this? Like that didn't even really come back. Like like see these fucking things through in the script. Like it's ridiculous. Anyway, then it goes to New York City, October 2011.
Yeah, we get lots of dates. There's lots of bits where they go to locations where like the bit on the bottom is just got a bunch of like coding stuff in there, and it just makes it hard to see what it's saying. So I was just like, this is taken away from my experience.
They're meeting with Michael Mando's character, and they want him to sign an NDA. They're going to propose this project to him, aren't they? The 2 cousins.
I'm not exactly sure what Michael Mando does.
He was like the drill specialist, and he'd done stuff like that before, but not quite to the same.
Yeah, there is like
a
cool bit here. They tell him basically they want to build a fiber tunnel from Kansas to New Jersey. To get, as we were saying, better stock market stuff. Yada. And they talk about like other lines he's done. He did one from like LA to San Francisco, which isn't as long, but it was successful. And then they're like, "Oh, we've got to test you. How would you do a line from like Stockholm to Madrid?"
Yes.
And I thought this bit was quite interesting because he had a map, and he's like, "Well, do you consider the curvature of the Earth?" He then like draws like a circle line.
And I feel like in a better made film, when he said that, it would have been like do, and like it would have lit up their faces like, we've got the right guy. But they were just kind of, they're both just looking at him like, And it's like, okay, is that like, did he do the right answer there? Like, there's no like, I know there's supposed to be kind of these slightly kind of blank-faced characters, and especially Alexander Skarsgård is obviously supposed to have some sort of like spectrum condition that's just, you know, really strangely acted at times. But you know, that it is a fun scene, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It suddenly just goes like, hey, you're on, kind of thing.
Yeah, and we get some random scenes here. There's a bit where we get introduced to where they work with Selma Hayek, their boss, at some stock exchange bit. We get a bit where they're at dinner with family. I think they're like Russian or something.
Yeah, they're Russian immigrants. They're second generation, because they talk later on about how when the dads moved over, they moved in with a load of other Russian families, and he got arrested as a spy really early on. And then he like was changed forever, and he wasn't a spy.
Oh yeah.
And then he like had a really dour attitude, and he's like, that's kind of why I'm so driven, because my dad was a bit of a like bastard, basically.
We get a bit where Anton,
I had him written down as Alex for like half the film, because I didn't know what his name.
At this point I've got him as balding guy.
No, because you didn't know it's Alex.
He's taken to Selma Hayek's office, and like they're like, what plans have you got? One of them mentions a microwave tower.
Yeah, it seems to be this ongoing project that is like a rival thing to this new idea that they haven't let anyone know about yet.
Like she keeps Anton behind, and he's like, I've got nothing, I've no idea. And she's like, you're lying to me. What is it? And he's like, I don't know.
Because she's like, you're the guy who always comes up with these crazy ideas. If you haven't got anything, you're either sitting on it or you're like holding back on me, kind of thing.
But he doesn't tell her. We move on.
Also, both like Jesse Eisenberg and him, like you said about the accents, Jesse Eisenberg normally has quite a nasally, high-pitched voice. And for like the first half of this, he's doing like a deeper voice. And then it's like noticeably changes. I think he gets more stressed and like ill later on. He just goes back to his normal self, and I'm like, okay.
And yes, some scenes Alexander Skarsgård is quite Russian, and in other scenes you forget he's Russian.
Apart from his name, Anton.
We get a quick scene of Anton like drilling a hole in a
I don't know what he was doing. I think that's, again, he's like a bit like hyper fixated on stuff, and he woke up and wanted to fix a problem.
Like, cool.
It's also kind of like drilling, like it's, I guess, thematic in some way.
And then they get to this point where they go to the Kansas Electronics Exchange, and it's December 2011, and they're surveying the land, like getting beeps and stuff from a stick. And this is a bit where they talk to the guy, they want to buy his land. There's this one bit where originally he's talking to Michael Mando's character, and he's like, where are you from? And he says like LA or something, or New Jersey. He's like, no, where are you originally from? And he comes back like, where are you from? He's like, American. Where are you originally from? And I was like, that's quite a fun dialogue. I like that. But
the other guy takes over and he wins him over.
And then they like kind of mark it on a map as like the first bit of property we've got to make this big old line. And it's like, they're going to do this a lot.
It seems like an absolute nightmare.
And like, I know they've got this investor guy on this, but throughout this film I was like, this must cost so much money.
And there's only one point where they have to go and ask for more because of an extra, thing that comes up. But like just because they're buying each of these people off, and they're probably underpaying them for how much they're going to make is the idea of it.
Like,
but it's crazy.
Across like half of America, each person that comes into this line was just going like, that's a lot.
And the other thing as well is that, and this is kind of where the film goes, and it, the whole conclusion of with the towers and all that, they don't seem like sure enough that this is going to revolutionize things. At this point, it's like it will get them ahead for X number of years. It seems like a hell of a lot. But then he says at one point, Anton says like, we could make 500 million a year from this. So I guess even a couple of years on that like dwarfs the cost. But it seems like it doesn't seem quite good enough for the work that's involved.
But like the stock exchange is wild. Like there's just a bunch of billionaires making millions and millions of money, and it's always the classic thing of like, when stocks are up, billionaires are making millions, and when stocks are down, poor people lose their jobs. And it's like, Go stock market.
Jumping off skyscrapers up and down Wall Street.
Yeah. So then we get a scene where Sam Hayek is talking to some businessman and she sees Vinny and Anton come in and give a note to like her assistant.
Like sneakily kind of sheepishly come in and she spots them because I guess they haven't been in for a bit or whatever. And she's like, she knows something's up.
And they like rush off and she kind of like pauses their meeting, gets on to take over, goes out and they've resigned. And she's like chasing them down the street and kind of confronts them.
It was quite good, wasn't it? Yeah. She's like shouting them in the street. Yeah. And she's making kind of threats, especially to Anton, because he's the coder and she's talking about like proprietary code and like anything he's worked on under her. She technically could state that she has
she's like everything in your head belongs to me kind of.
Yeah, she's being very dramatic about it. I think she literally says like your brain belongs to me and it's like it's not quite.
She's the villain.
She is the villain, yes. Yeah.
And then we're in New Jersey, February 2012.
So what is that like? That's like 4 months after.
Yeah, and we kind of get a bit of a montage of them buying land from various people.
Yeah, they're doing their marks on the map kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of making progress and they kind of dot it up along this line. It's not just going one by one, it's loads happening. And then in June 2012 they start digging.
Is it June? Is that when they're like, we've got 95% of the land deals done?
And it's split in like different sections. So this bit is like West Virginia, it's like 27 miles of the line. I was thinking surely it all just attaches and it's one really long line. Was a bit confused by the sections.
There are these like they call them, I can't remember what it is.
Like
there's
generators,
like generator points or whatever, and that's kind of where it comes in later with the whole brainwave that Skarsgård has. But it's something to do with they have little checkpoints basically, don't they, where they connect them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there'd be a guy at one end just feeding cable for about 2 days and just hoping it doesn't catch. It's just it's all pulled 2h miles in. He's just like,
and then they're meeting with.
Or you could get a little remote control car, put it through. 2 days. Runs out of battery.
Yeah. Well, good job it's plugged in.
They have a great signal as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And they're meeting with their investigator. This is now September. And they kind of explaining again what's going on. And they said the Appalachian Mountains are a problem because it's like a nature reserve and you can't just go around.
So they basically say their kind of idea, because they suggest they ask Anton, because he's like the numbers guy. They're like, if we go round, how will it affect it? And I thought he was going to say way more. It's actually like 3 milliseconds or whatever, but it's enough to be like, this is bad. And then he's like, so we'll be 17 if we go through. And Jesse Eisenberg's whole pitch was 16.
Yeah.
So they start freaking out, the investors.
They're like, no, it needs to be 16.
And
17
he's just
is
like,
nothing.
he's like shushing Anton, like, no, it's going to be 16. And that's quite a like tense little scene there.
Yeah.
I quite like that.
There's a bit where Jesse Eisenberg and Vinny's like, oh, we're going to need government clearance. And the guy's like, that's easy. Don't worry about that. That's fine.
And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. And it's the idea basically is to just kind of drill through the whole mountain almost in one go without like into, because I think they say that. Whoa, that was weird. They said they can't have these checkpoints throughout that because it's a national park. Isn't it?
There's a bit with the drilling that I never quite understood, where like the drill is like a 45-degree angle going down.
Yeah. And then somehow it goes level. I don't know. I guess it's a wiggly worm when it goes down.
Wiggly worm.
Also, like, how long is... I mean, I know the drill is obviously very long, but, like, it must be really long because we see it. We don't ever... I guess... I'm sure we see the back end of it at some point, but the back end of it must go miles back that way. If they're only doing, like, 5...
I don't understand.
Or is it telescopic? It must be telescopic.
Oh, maybe, yeah. But then surely the hole would get smaller.
No, because the head is still the same size. The drill bit, as it's called.
Yeah.
That bit of the drill.
We get a funny bit here where when they're saying bye to the businessman, he's like, oh, you can go to Kansas now, Dorothy. Yeah. And Anton's like, it's Anton. And it's like, oh, get it? Because this guy's a little bit autistic.
Because he doesn't understand things, yes.
Yeah. And Anton's like not sure if he can get it down to 16 milliseconds. Yeah. And then he's like, yeah, you can. It's like, cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a classic dynamic there, but it's kind of like he's taking advantage of him, but also kind of has confidence in him, but he's just like, you'll get it done because you have to, kind of thing. It's like there's so much riding on it.
Yeah, there's a lot here that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, there's a bit where they go to get on a plane and Anton's scared, and then the pilot mentions there's turbulence. He gets off the plane.
Yeah,
and then when they're driving, Salma Hayek's character has someone following them, and that's how she ends up kind of catching wind of it. So I guess
they're a bit of a convoy driving along.
It is at this point I was kind of unsure about like the tone of the film, because at this point it feels kind of like this kind of wacky caper at times. Like it's a bit like there's like the bit with the plane is like a comedic thing, almost like a trains, planes and automobiles thing. Like, oh no, we have to get the car, and there's a bit where Michael Mando's telling a story about like poo and like rich people's poo coming up, and how it's all kind of like metaphors for stuff, but it has quite a light tone at times, and then as we see, it kind of changes tone quite quickly.
We get a couple more scenes here, like them setting up their stuff.
Yeah,
Mark has an idea for the mountain.
Yeah,
they kind of having a meal, and the guy's following them, takes a picture of them.
because Jesse Eisenberg's Vinny is like
holding the map up to the window.
He's waving the map about to be like, we need to do this.
If anybody knows about this secret project, I'm holding up this huge map up with a big red line going
above my head so that you can see behind me.
Yeah, fucking idiot, Vinny.
Yeah. But the idea is it's a helicopter with a drill on it, which we never see, unfortunately.
No, we do. No, it's not a helicopter with a drill on it. You've misunderstood the situation
here,
Sam.
Of course I have. Yeah, it's a helicopter drill plan, though.
Yes, it is a helicopter drill plan. It's a really big helicopter that can carry a heavier load, so they can get in a bigger drill. Because it's in like the forest, they need a helicopter to bring in the drill.
Right.
He can get a really big helicopter. I
think putting a helicopter on a drill seems like a stupid idea.
Yeah.
Because it would have to be really... I mean, also... that helicopter would definitely start spinning around. I think it would. I reckon it would.
I mean, there's only one way to find out. The Helicopter Project.
It would. I mean, it would have to be. Yeah, no, because the whole point is the drills are like pretty much screwed into the ground themselves so that they don't turn. Yeah, the torsion or torque or whatever.
I reckon what would happen.
No, I didn't really give it much thought, obviously.
I reckon with the drill bit spinning attached to the helicopter, it would approach the mountains. It'd have to be high up above the trees. Yeah, and because the helicopter
also
moves around.
That's the other thing, because they're digging underground, so having a helicopter drilling wouldn't make any sense.
And because the helicopter moves around, it wouldn't be able to have like a dot or hole. It'd just be kind of moving around against the mountain.
That was why I thought it was stupid, not the fact the helicopter might start spinning around.
I can't get the image of a helicopter spinning around.
It's like in a cartoon where they they're drilling something.
But I guess if they get like a strong enough foothold in the mountain, it might hold it stable. But the bit like we see, but it'd be sticking up in the air. Like
because then the power of the helicopter would be pushing in every direction it's constantly pushing down. So as soon as it spun sideways, then the drill, so you get a really wide hole probably.
Wow. I don't think we've ever had a conversation on this pod where we've both been more clueless about what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's this film's fault. It should have explained things a little bit better.
Yeah. We get a bit here. Oh, they meet this woman who's gonna
see, this is the person I was talking about. Oh no, so Salma's lot, when she sees the thing,
sees the photo, and
she's like, we have to get the microwave thing done ASAP. She says like, I'm gonna build them tomorrow, and I don't know if she actually builds them tomorrow, but she builds them at some point.
They don't even know how to get them working at this point.
They've got a problem to fix as well. Everyone's got a mathematical problem in this to fix.
And then they meet somebody.
Yes, this is the woman who's like the drill, something else to do with drilling or something.
She knows how to drill for a mountain,
which is like Michael Mando is supposed to do this. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think maybe he's just like a middleman that hires the people to do it. Like
he's a project manager probably.
Yeah, like us.
Yeah,
like us. Vinny's then ill in bed, and he calls Mark, and he's like,
because when they were having the dinner,
he's got like a damaged stomach.
He's like, oh, I think the fish is bad fish or whatever. But yeah, he wakes up in the night.
And Anton's working on the code, and this is when we get the first bit. So he needs to cut down 1.22 milliseconds, which is ridiculous. If your entire industry is based on 1.22 milliseconds, maybe this industry's a bit dumb.
Well, maybe the fact that there's so much money riding on it is a little bit irresponsible.
it makes sometimes you watch. You mentioned like The Big Short. Or things like that where you're like, oh fucking hell, this world is really stupid, isn't it? It's really dumb how we've got to this point.
Yeah.
And this is another one like that. You're like, some guy writing code to cut 1.22 milliseconds off a thing to make them billions of dollars. Like, fucking hell, this world is dumb, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really stupid. Yeah,
but he's so far cut off 0.03.
This is what I'm saying.
Milliseconds.
It's not on the screen for that long, and I was like, I don't really know what these numbers mean.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I wonder who the target audience for this film was. Maybe it is like people that like The Big Short.
Yeah, I feel like. Well, when
The Big Short was like 2016, I think.
Yeah,
it's a couple years before this.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of
but
riding the coattails of it. Yeah, I mean, it's just a better made film from what I've heard. I haven't seen it.
It is a well made film. Yeah. But Vinny's in hospital. He's got a bad diagnosis. But it cuts to like him telling Mark like, oh no, I'm fine.
Yeah, so we get the bit where the doctor's like, it's bad news. And then it cuts to him going outside.
And he's like, it's fine, it's nothing. It's just
and then they like drive off and then it goes back to the diagnosis.
Yeah, it's like, stomach cancer. That's weirdly edited.
And also, we were both watching it on Prime with Freevee or whatever.
Yeah.
So there was adverts and it was literally like, it's bad news. And then it played the advert for me, and then he went outside, and I was like, "Did I miss the diagnosis?" And then it went back, and I was like, "What is this? An Infinity Project?"
Oh wow, that's a reference.
Yeah.
The ads were so weirdly put in this. I did keep thinking I was missing stuff.
And compared to like 4OD or like ITVX or whatever it's called now.
They'll put the ad at the end of a scene.
Or even, that. But also, that's the main. But also, those are like 2-minute ad breaks. These were like 20-second ad breaks.
Well, they changed. The first one came up and it said like 90 seconds. I was like, fuck off. Is this going to keep happening? But then like, the more they did though, then like 20 seconds.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I also, at one point, I made a grave mistake.
I made a great joke to myself.
Where I think it was a 90-second ad break and there was about 5 seconds left and I accidentally pressed back and then went back into it and it took me to the start of the 90-second ad break and I was like, I cannot put up with this.
So you didn't watch the rest of the film?
No, gave up.
Okay. I've got the Wikipedia description here.
No, but anyway, he needs immediate treatment for his stomach cancer.
Yeah.
You've got a year or two.
He's like, after that, 50% chance of living at least another 5 more years. So chances are not great, but it's not a death sentence.
Survivable. And he's like, I'm kind of busy, can it wait? And she's like, no.
Yeah. And then he starts talking about a dream where old man is chasing him around.
Yeah.
And again, this is like, I know it's not like a particularly visually arty film, apart from the few kind of scenes in the middle, but I feel like take a little bit more artistic license with it. Show maybe the opening scene of the weird plumbing thing of like the shadow person telling him like add a little bit of like dream vibes to it. Maybe show us him having the weird old man dream a couple of times.
So
do you know what I mean? It's just like, it's people going, hey, this really interesting thing happened, but I'm not going to show you it. And then, oh no, it doesn't mean anything, and let's just carry on with this boring film.
We might as well talk about this now because I was going to say for the trivia, none of this happened. This isn't based on real people. This is all made up. And because it's really shot and like designed as if it's like a true story. You're following these real people and this real stuff happened. It's all made up. And I was like, because it was only when I read the trivia after I was like, oh, well, what the fuck? What? What's the excuse for this being so stupid?
I was bloody dumbstruck by that news there.
Right?
Hell.
So I'll quickly.
You tell me now, and then I can.
So some of it is partly based on a book called Flash Boys: A Wall Street Revolt, which is based on the high frequency trading and a real line built for the exact purpose portrayed in the movie. But that's it. So they saw that somebody built a line for this fast stock.
They saw that The Big Short had come out and they went, oh yeah.
Yeah.
We'll make a film about this quickly.
And there's no reason for him to get cancer. There's no reason for him to be Russian.
I'd never say, I'm glad he got cancer.
Because he was a dick.
Well, he was a dick, but it's because it was the only thing that was like, okay, now I can, like I said, now I can see where this film's going. He's got to make a choice. He's made the choice. Yeah. And it's like, but also he makes the choice not to tell anybody, which is kind of the point. It's supposed to be this thing going through, but it doesn't really. There's no effect until like the end, and then he's like, "Oh, I've got cancer."
Like that bit when you're talking about the dreams and stuff. When I watch it, I was like, "Oh, like the guy, the real guy, must have talked about this dream a lot after this, and they've decided he was driven by this dream, so they felt like they had to put it on." It's so I've never been more surprised that a film's like not based on a true
boring.
Right? Like if you're gonna make up a story, make it interesting.
Fucking hell. Wow. Yeah, but do you see what I mean though? Like, okay, especially considering that if they made all this shit up anyway, make it more interesting. Have the dream sequences in it, make it a little bit more, not necessarily like, you know, elevated reality, but like take some fucking flair to it and like make him like have stress dreams about like his old Russian dad chasing him around a forest or whatever.
Yeah.
I know that's like a bit silly, but like silly's better than boring. It's just
speaking of which, we then get a fairly long scene, and the only note I've got from it is that Anton is now up to 0.1 out of 1.22 milliseconds he needs to achieve.
I don't know. Well, yeah. Is this the bit where he's in the hot tub and Salma Hayek turns up?
Not yet. His wife calls and she's worried, and he talks to his daughter about atoms and how...
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's parts like that where it's like he is a good dad when he's around, but he's very distant in his work.
I feel like you're clearly meant to like him.
Yeah. And I did like him more than the other character, but it was just a weird characterization.
Yeah, then they're doing a bit of the Appalachian Mountains, and then it's the hot tub.
Yeah, so he's like chilling in the hot tub because he's like done his code or whatever.
Yeah,
and then
I think it might just be a bath actually. It's not bubbling,
but it's like a sauna. It's next to a pool. It's like a wooden.
That makes sense. It's
a Swedish style hot tub, which is very relevant for Alexander Skarsgård. He was like, not going to get in a hot tub unless it's a proper Swedish one.
But
and then suddenly she's just there.
Yeah, how did she get there?
I don't know. Which turns out she helicoptered in because we see the chopper.
How did he not hear their big helicopter?
I don't know. Yeah, he was under the water. I think he was under the water, and he came out like, "What are you doing here, my old boss?"
No, he
stalked me.
He's like facing at the window, and she like pours water on his head, and he's like, "What?"
Okay, well, he was under that water then, wasn't
he? Yeah, she starts going on about a story about some guy who left a company, and doing similar to what they did, and the old company went after him, accused him of stealing code, and the FBI, because the FBI worked for the rich, arrested him, and he's in prison for 8 years.
Yeah, and then she's like, think about how old your daughters are going to be in 8 years, and he's like, oh no.
Oh no.
And then she leaves, and we get
again, at this point, I nearly looked up that guy's name to see if he was out of prison yet. He never existed either.
No. Someone's Smirnoff. Like, fucking hell. It's literally like fucking Stranger Things. Oh, what's a Russian name? Oh, Smirnoff. Come on, mate. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, then Jesse Eisenberg's like dissociating outside, and Anton's like running around freaking out. It's like they're both having a terrible time, basically.
They're both like having a complete breakdown at this point.
Yeah, and then we find out the crew that they hired for at least the job next to where they're staying, they're packing their stuff up. And effectively, they've been bought out by Salma Hayek's lot, but they can't admit it because they're under NDA. And again, this is more like, oh, it's so stressful.
And the microwave towers are being built.
Yeah.
This is where we get the scene where Anton's working on his laptop at like a bar or a restaurant.
Yeah, it's like a kind of dive bar kind of thing.
And it's quite a nice scene for like him as well, where the waitress is like, what are you working on? Just like playfully. And he's like, I can't tell you. And she's like, oh, go on. He's like, you have to sign an NDA and like writes it out on like a napkin. She signs it, and she's like, you know that won't hold up a coin. He was like, oh yes, it will.
And she's kind of joking, like, hey, are you a spy? I've got my KGB lot in the back, kind of thing. Yeah, I guess it's kind of I don't think it's supposed to be like a threatening thing, but I guess it's playing on those vibes of like, they could get in trouble quite easily, and he's just been threatened before.
And like he explains the line to her, and she's essentially the one audience POV character in this entire film. The one person who's got the similar understanding as the audience.
And it's strange that comes halfway through, probably 3/4 of the way through the film, because I'll admit this probably helped my understanding quite a lot.
Oh yeah, 100%. They need to do it more.
Yeah, have this earlier on.
Have like Michael Mando not understand. Like he knows that they want to drill, but not understand all the purposes, and have to explain to him
in
why
in
they
the
need
first
certain
scene
stuff.
of the film, second scene of the film,
and maybe he'll be like, "Oh, we can go around here," and they have to explain why they have to go through things, and like just do that. But yeah, here's where he talks about you can make $500 million a year doing that.
It's all in little bits that add up.
Yeah, and when I explain it, he's like, "Oh, say you want to invest, you invest in lemons."
Well, yeah, she looks around the bar and she sees lemon. She says, "Lemon farmer in wherever."
And he explains how with this they can sell the stock. They can sell the stock cheaper. And she's like, "Well, what about the farmers?"
Yeah. And he's like, it's the null point in this.
They're irrelevant.
Thing. But again, it's like, it's supposed to be the one bit of like moral implications there.
Yeah.
And it does kind of get to him, and he does mention it a few times as he kind of has a bit of a spiral. But it almost feels like it's like, well, what if the audience don't agree with this? Well, we better have a normal woman say that it's bad, kind of thing.
Because, maybe these farmers are more important than a few people making billions on the stock market. And like I said, it doesn't come in until like right at the end of the film where they have one offhand line.
But it also doesn't come to anything either. Like, I know that there's nothing to suggest that character would have an affair or be at all like, but there's an indication that might be, where that scene could go.
Yeah.
And again, that would have been more interesting than...
As like a stress release, if nothing else.
Yeah, that would have been more interesting than just like, oh no, that's it. And she never comes back again. Again, it feels like something that someone would have written in an autobiography. And you're like, this is an important detail. When he explained it and it made him question the moral implications of it. It's like a fucking AI generated autobiography, isn't it?
Really
it's very
is.
strange. Yeah.
We get a bit here where Torres, Selma Hayek's character.
That was super cool.
Yeah, I think I learned that for the first time here. She's given a thesis by some grad student who's talked about the microwave tower thing, and he's sussed it out.
Yeah. Is that when she's like, "Hey, I'll start you straight away. You get $100,000 a year, and if you improve it, you get a $300,000 bonus."
Yeah, but
she's like,
he's like, bloody hell, he's like 20 or something. Being like, okay, but she's like, but you got to be loyal and don't fuck it up.
Yeah,
and it's like a little bit threatening here because she's the villain.
She is the villain. There's a thing about the river.
The woman that they've got for the mountains says like there's a way quicker way to do things, like much cheaper. And talks about like her father, and they go
and this is when
on the raft.
Jesse Eisenberg's having a bit of a spiral, and he's like, I'm gonna die, so I'll go on there. And then it's when he talks about his dad emigrating into the US, and it's got a really weird end because he kind of explains his motivations for wanting to do something big and profound by saying his dad was always really hard on him, and she's like, that's a bit weird. And then it ends by her being like, well, I hope you make it. And he like looks really weird, as if he's like, are you talking about my life or my career? And I don't know if
it means nothing. And then we don't see her again.
No, because he does look fucked at this point. Like he's immediately looks worse than he did before. So I don't know if she is supposed to have picked up on that fact, or I don't know. It's just a bit obscure for the fucking sake of it. It's just a bit annoying.
And Vinny then visits Anton again, and he says that 600 miles is completed.
Yeah.
Anton's on a bit of a spiral.
Yeah, he's gone a bit like...
He's like, the system's missing a load of variables. Like, this is impossible to work out. He's basically like, he's getting overwhelmed by this task, essentially. And for somebody who's like a super genius, it's kind of getting to him that he can't figure this out. He talks about the lemon farmers, and he talks about how this whole thing's going to collapse in 50 years. So what's the point?
Well, yeah, or in 3 months.
It's like, what is the point actually?
Yeah.
But Vinny says Anton needs a break.
Well, there's this whole thing going through that Anton's motivation is like a house in the country or something.
Yeah.
And it turns out either in this scene or later on that he's like, the only reason I want that is just so people will leave me alone. I can just live with my family.
Yeah.
He's got a nice motivation, but he's like the only person that has a, nice-ish motivation.
And I feel like there's kind of, as well as that, there's kind of this ongoing thread that the implication is that he's being manipulated by his cousin, who's got this great idea and needs him to do it, because he's kind of constantly tagging him along.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. Yeah, there's a bit where
Jesse Eisenberg's
like, notes is like,
he's like, I'm gonna take your kids out for ice cream, and it's like one last job situation. It's like this guy at this point, I'm like, he's gonna die before he does that, and we don't know really what happens there. There's a bit where like their car breaks down, and they have a bit of like a cousinly bonding time. And then they get taken straight to the drill site, and the drill breaks on a bit of rock.
This is where we see the big helicopter.
Is it? Yeah.
So I was like, they kept talking about this big helicopter, and I was like, how big is a big helicopter?
They say it was like 70 meters or something.
70 foot, I think.
Okay, I was going to say 70 meters is like, that's like King Kong level helicopter.
Yeah.
Not like, well, maybe.
Depends on the Kong.
Yeah, no, I meant more like one that would fight him, not like, he could probably get in it.
Yeah, like this big helicopter. I looked at it and I was like, it looks like a fairly big helicopter,
big.
But I don't really know.
A lot of like army stuff. When you look at the actual scale of it, you're like, that's actually quite big. But but we don't really like. If you think about like battleships and stuff, we see them like next to King Kong. You're like, oh, it's not that big. You see it next to a guy, and you're like, oh,
there's also the big military helicopters that have got the two spinny things. Chinooks. Yeah. I've been on a Chinook.
A bit. What flying? No. I was gonna say
no.
I feel like
I was like, oh
yeah. They used to when they did the Shoreham Air Show. I went a few times. I think I went in one, but maybe not.
It's
but I can't remember.
It looks like the inside of like all the films where before the military people like parachute out.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, oh yeah, I've seen this.
Didn't need to do this. Waste of time.
But yeah, there's a problem with the drill.
Yeah, they say it hit like a vein of mineral or something, and the drill bit gets broken, and the like foreman guy is like, "Hey, we've got to do something else." And Jesse Eisenberg's just like, "You fucking bitch, what are you doing?"
He needs $60,000 for a new drill bit, and I was like, "Fucking hell, go down to Halfords, $5.99."
Because like drill industrial drills have like diamond tips and stuff, don't they?
They are insane.
But the guy suggests, he's like, oh, we should have got this one. And then he's like, well, why didn't we have this one the whole time?
Yeah.
He's like, well, we didn't know this. And the guy's being quite reasonable, but Vinny's just like freaking out about it.
And Mark has to like pull him away.
Yeah.
And this is where he basically needs to go to the businessman and ask for more money so he can get his drill bit. And he kind of like, hey, so the month is during a month. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. And the guy's like, "There's been nothing but surprises," and he's like, "This is the first surprise. What the fuck are you talking about?"
I guess the bit in the meeting when he accidentally told him that maybe it wouldn't be feasible was probably the first surprise. But yeah, he's smoothing it over, and they're like, "We've kind of lost faith in you." Yeah. And they have a moment where he's sussing him out, the investor, and he's like, I feel like you're probably telling the truth is kind of where it ends. Yeah, because
he's like, it's not going to be ready in a month. Like,
yeah. Because he's saying like, well, how do I know that you're not just pocketing all this extra money and you're just going to like leave me high and dry at the end? Because he has no way of really telling that. And he's like, he kind of looks him up and down. He's kind of like, okay. And then he literally said, and he checks on his phone, he's got like however many million extra.
It goes from like 600 grand to 15 million. I was like, fuck it. I feel like that's not how things would work. Like if you're sending $15 million, it wouldn't just turn up in your bank account in seconds, would it?
I mean, the bank account he's got is probably like a business account that's one of that guy's accounts. It's probably not his personal. Yeah, it's like fucking like ISA, cash ISA. No, I feel like that would probably take 2 to 3 business days.
This next scene went a different way to what I thought.
Me too. So you spoke about stress relief earlier. That's where this like so Jesse Eisenberg, Vinny, he's stressed. He's driving around. He finds like an all-night massage parlor
with like neon lights and outside.
It's raining, and he goes in. And he's like, "Is this a legal business?" And obviously, the woman is like, "Yes."
And I was like, "This is like the dodgiest like masseuse, massage place I've ever seen in my life."
Yeah.
Like if I had to like describe in my head what a massage parlor that gave out like hand jobs in a massage would look like, it's this.
Yeah, well, that's the point, right? And like, and then he's like, okay, I want like this or whatever. She's asking him options, and it's quite a short bit. And then he's on the table, and we get this really like intense scene where he's just lying on his back, and it's doing the close-ups of her hand. And I'm like, is he gonna like make a move? Is he gonna get like aroused?
Yeah.
And it's like very intense and kind of sensory. And then he just like starts crying, and it's like, oh.
It's a bit
and then
sad.
she just ignores him and carries on. It's really sad. And I was like, fucking hell. I guess it's just like the tension of everything is just. Yeah,
and then just he's leaving, Mark calls and be like, there's a problem.
He looks at his phone and there's like 10 missed calls. Yeah. And it turns out they didn't they didn't buy all of the land they needed yet. I don't know how it happened.
They said they had like 95%. It's always the last few percent that's the hardest.
Yeah.
We get a quick bit of Anton. He's playing tennis, and then he calls his wife.
He's written down like magnetic things from the moon. Is that going to affect it or something? Like he's like on the edge kind of thing.
And he sees a guy like outside smoking and shuts all his windows and curtains. And then Vinny meets Mark, and I quite enjoyed this bit where they get to like an Amish farm. And they're saying to this guy, and Mark's like, he won't do anything, he won't do it. And he goes up to him, he's like, we just want to build this thing underneath.
He's like, it's not going to affect you at all.
We'll give you $230,000.
And he keeps going like, it's going to be the new high-speed thing. And
I was like, what the fuck are you doing, Vinny? Like,
that's the wrong
of
language.
all people to talk to.
There's literally a horse and cart going past them.
But he starts talking about how like the money would be good for you, like your community.
It's like 230,000.
But the guy's like money goes. Like,
he's also like, it will cause more problems for us. We're here just for God. And he's like, we don't believe that things should be faster. We believe that things should just go at their own pace. And he's kind of dug himself into a hole with it. And then he starts getting a bit aggressive with the guy, doesn't he? And he's just like, hey, like, you're going to regret this. It's very like Salma Hayek's character. Like, he's just kind of lashing out.
And they kind of leave there.
And then Anton, this is when he has the breakthrough, doesn't he?
Because he's looking at the box that I don't truly understand this, but it's the way it's the generator or something. He's looking at the specs on it, and he calls being like, what tolerance does it have? Like, how accurate is it? And the guy on the phone says it's like 10 to 15%. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm talking about like milliseconds. Like,
and then he kind of figures out that they don't need as many, because each of them will effectively slow it down a little bit. So he's like, we can cut like X amount out of the whole line,
space them out more, more,
and by that, that should then have the.
And he says that'll make it a whole millisecond quicker, which is basically his target.
And the guy that he's talking to is just like a retail guy, and he's like, okay, if you say so. And
There's
he's
a few times in this where he calls up like a help service, and it is literally just some guy, and it's like, I don't have any fucking idea what you're talking about. He starts like dancing.
It's quite a fun scene.
He dances like down the corridor, and then some guys in suits appear, and he kind of turns around awkwardly, and they're like, "Hey, you're Anton. Come here." And he turns around and is like, we're arresting you for stock market
FBI
fraud.
And he's like, oh shit, and he just starts running away.
And it's so weird because like he's running really weirdly, like with straight legs and a humpback, but he's quite fast.
And he like throws like a hotel cart thing in front of them. And he's like back on the tennis court he was on earlier, and it's like this is the thing, it's kind of like wacky, kind of, I guess it's supposed to be like a funny moment, but it's like, I don't know, it just felt really weird to me. I was like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be feeling in this.
And again, it was another bit that I was like, oh yeah, I could like see how that was in somebody's autobiography.
Yeah, exactly. Very strange.
But he's arrested by the FBI.
Yes.
And then we cut back to the Amish farm, and they're drilling like just outside it. Because Mark's had this idea, and the Amish people come up and start having going. They're like, no, they let us do it because it's for the collective good.
He says if it's collective good and it's 100 foot, he says instead.
So this is the bit that is the bit. Another bit I was unsure about. Their whole thing is that it needs to be a straight line, completely straight. You can't go round the farm. You can't go over the farm. It needs to be a straight line to make it as quick as possible. Surely going down 100 feet is just as much, because they're like 10 feet underground for the whole of it. Going down an extra 90 feet for a bit and then coming back up. Surely, if you like that curve of the 90 feet, if you turn that to the side, that you probably just go around the farm. I
think they own more land than just that area.
But I think in theory, it's not just the farm. They talk about all other bits.
All those little bits and pieces, like the bit with the mountain and stuff, there would be extra feet, 100 feet or so.
So like when they had the vein in the mountain, surely they could have gone 2 foot under that. It's weirdly inconsistent.
Probably because it's not real. But he's like, if it's like you say, for the collective well-being of the state, then we're allowed to do it. And the guy's just like, great.
You dicks. Fuck off.
Dicks. God hates you.
Yeah. Anton's being questioned by the FBI, saying that he's a threat to national security because the FBI people don't really understand all this stock stuff either.
No.
They've just been told by Selma Hayek that he's bad, and they're like, he does have a Russian name.
He's Russian and he's bad, and he's second generation, so he's even closer to being Russian than someone else that was also Russian.
Vinny's pissing blood.
Yes, very painful looking, quite horrible to look at.
Yeah, he gets a call from Anton. He's like, yo, Vinny, I'm in prison.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to come get you. Like, hold on, I'm going to be there. And then, like, he goes talk to, like, his assistant or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, get the lawyers. We're going to get Anton. And Mark appears and he's like, you do that. I'm going to go with Mark because something else has popped up.
He's like, something's come up. And they go to somewhere where they're doing their thing. And there's graffiti on the floor that boasts about like 11 milliseconds instead.
And there's like an arrow. And you look up and there's this microwave tower there. And it's like, oh, fuck, they've done it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and 11 seconds as well. They were like, how do we get to 16 milliseconds? And it's like, they've just fucking smashed it. This microwave thing. They should have made a film about that.
Yeah.
If that was real.
Yeah. And have these like weird Russian guys as the bad guys.
Yeah. Who stole all their plans and ran off to try and become rich.
And there's the bit where the guy managed to get the photo through the window just because the buffoons were arguing.
Yeah.
And the guy having cancer is a good thing.
Yeah.
There's a really funny bit where he starts pissing blood. When he cries when he's about to have a massage. That sounds like a great film.
God, we are nearly at the end of this.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Torres.
We've got through it quite quickly, to be fair.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't feel like it for you. I've got the numbers to prove it. So
okay, just like Selma Hayek, who the towers get turned on.
Yes,
and it works. And everyone fucking loses their shit.
Her office are like, what?
This is like because. I think bits like this is where, like, so you're shitting on how like boring Wall Street films can be and stock market, but like The Wolf of Wall Street is generally a fairly entertaining film.
Yeah,
I always find it a bit weird when people say it's like their favorite films. It's like this guy's a dick.
Yeah,
or they think Leonardo DiCaprio's character is like the best character. Is like, no, he's a dick.
Yeah, he's kind of like the worst guy in that film.
Yeah. But yeah, The Wolf of Wall Street, like it's an entertaining film, and this scene kind of reminded that of just people losing their shit because they're just earning like millions of dollars
like this
in a second.
Yeah.
I was like, this is quite fun. We should see more of this.
Again, we should see it from Salma Hayek's point of view.
Yeah. Vinny and Mark are driving to the tower and the car gets stuck. And Vinny's like, no, Mark's like, we need to fucking go back. Like, you're losing your mind.
And he looks fucked at this point.
He looks fucking awful.
He's got like big bags under his eyes. He's pale. He's sweating like fucking nothing. Yeah, and he just grabs a chainsaw out of the back and he's like, I'm going up. Yeah. And like, we haven't spoken about, he's like smoking quite a lot throughout this film. And I think even leading up to this point, he's still like smoking away.
It's quite funny. There's certain scenes where like the two of them go up to walk somebody and they're just walking up and it shows the person they're talking to and it cuts back and he's like halfway through a cigarette. And I'm like, when the fuck did he do that?
He smokes very quickly.
And lights it and gets into it really quick.
But he grabs his chainsaw and he's kind of and there was a metaphor early in the film about David and Goliath, and it didn't really make sense. It was like, we're gonna go into Wall Street and we're gonna be the David, but it didn't say that they were gonna take down Wall Street. There's a bit about that later, which is all stupid conjecture for no reason.
It's like, in fact, they're just working for one billionaire instead of another.
And he's like, oh, that tower's Goliath, I'm gonna chop it down. And he's like going a bit like loopy and he's walking up and then he passes out, obviously, because he's very ill and he's dragging a chainsaw up, probably while still smoking. I think he's actually finished smoking.
And Mark picks him up and carries him back to the truck.
Yeah.
Very, very easily. I would say. When he's walking down, he's just kind of like casually strolling. It's like he's got a man on his back. Like,
it's just little Jesse Eisenberg, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
And there is a slight dream sequency bit here where we see like he's like looking over the trees because he's like in and out of consciousness. And I think we get him being like, I'm going to go get my cousin or whatever. and you almost think that he's got back up again, and then he wakes up and he's in the ambulance.
Yeah,
but it's not enough dreamy for me.
No, we get a quick bit where Anton's visited by his wife, and he's like, "I didn't do anything illegal. Like Vinny asked me to do it."
And she's like, "Well, why the fuck are you here, you stupid prick?"
Yeah,
because the whole time she's like, "Your cousin is bad news, and you need to come home to your family because you've been gone for 6 months."
Yeah,
probably more at this point.
But yeah, Vinny's in the ambulance, and he's like, "Give me a phone."
Yeah,
and he's got his arms like strapped down. He unstraps one of them, and he starts making this phone call.
Yeah,
and the nurses are like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, you're nearly dead." And he calls like this insurance company.
Yeah, like
so he wants to insure. He wants to
insure their idea in case somebody supersedes it or steals the idea,
which he describes as essentially betting against it, which is what they do in The Big Short.
Yeah, but the problem is that he should have done this earlier.
Yeah.
And the only reason he's doing it, I mean, it's also insurance fraud because he admits straight away in front of all the paramedics that he only did it because he knew that it was going to happen.
Yeah, but yeah, he should have done this ages ago.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the fucking investor should have had this in place as well.
Yeah,
it's his fucking fault.
We find out like in the next scene that like he closes the deal, he goes into surgery, whatever.
Yeah.
But the next scene, like the investor's there, and he's like, "I'm gonna lose my company because of this."
Yeah,
and it's
like, well, why?
Why?
This guy probably had no track record of good.
Yeah,
good plans
ever.
This
whole thing about how you like trust him. Yeah, it's cool that you trust him, but you still fucking insure this stuff.
And also
have,
that
like, a backup.
That guy was portrayed as like he's the bad investor guy, as if he was gonna fuck him over. He was never portrayed as like this kind, trusting guy who was like. And it's like, oh, poor billionaire. Oh wow, like
he's a fucking idiot.
Who wrote this fucking film?
Kim Nguyen.
Fuck, he's probably a bloody billionaire, isn't he?
What's happened next? Anton's
Salma's line has slowed down.
Yeah, Anton's at the in prison. He's made a phone call, and it's like turned on his computer.
That's what happened. Right?
Yeah, he turned the computer and he presses free.
Yeah, but that's fucking Dark Knight shit, isn't it? What's that about?
Like, yeah, it sounds like this program. It slows down her thing. He's just been fucking arrested by the FBI for like stock fraud, and they've just left all his computers in his room as he left them. Bull fucking shit. The first thing they're doing is taking all that.
Yeah, he could have set off a bloody bomb.
Yeah, like what the fuck is that? Like what? And it doesn't make any sense.
It's definitely not a real story. Yeah. So he had some thing programmed that like intercepted their communications, and they didn't know where. Somehow, even though I feel like. Between different microwave towers, radio towers, microwave towers, you could probably figure out which one was being affected.
Also, like they know where he set this all up, so sure you can go there.
But it wasn't there; it was somewhere else.
But it slowed it down to like 20 milliseconds. Now behind.
I think it slowed it down by 20 milliseconds.
Oh, okay, so they're now way behind.
They're way behind.
And this again, we're getting a funny bit where all the people that are celebrating for now panic. We get one guy who smashes his keyboard against the desk and keys fly everywhere. It's like these people are all fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like. God,
I think anyone would go mad with that kind of money, really.
Imagine working in that industry.
What I don't understand, right? I know it's probably addictive. Like, surely...
Add it to the list of things we don't understand.
Just, like, if you've got the capability... Like, we probably know people who have the mathematical capability. I mean, you're better at maths than me, but, like, who have the mathematical capability of, like, getting into this field. And maybe it's a case of you have to get it into it when you're young or you have to have the right opportunities. But surely this is the kind of thing where you could do it for a year and you could then never work again.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's addictive and I know a lot of it is who you know. And, you know, maybe it's not quite the same here as it is, you know, in the New York Stock Exchange. But, you know, like the amount of money some of these people are making, you could do it for 2 months and you'd be set. You could then start your own business and
do what you want to do.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think you really have to want this shit or you have to be really greedy.
Yeah,
basically, and I'm pretty greedy, but not that greedy.
I think everyone that works in Wall Street is a bit of a cunt.
There's the clip for the episode.
And yeah, I don't think I need to expand on that. One of which, Salma Hayek's character, not Salma Hayek. She seems lovely. she visits Anton in prison, and she's like, and he has a good line here. He's like, "Oh, I was expecting you, but you're 20 milliseconds late."
Yeah, that was good.
And he's like, "It will." She's like, "I can get this sorted out. I'll fix it." And he's like, "Yeah, you can, but it'll take like 5 or 6 months. Like by the time you've done that, it would have cost you an absolute fortune." And she's like, "What do you want?" And he's like, "I want you to drop the charges and like stay away from Vinny. Don't arrest him either, because I'll do it again." And she's like, "Okay." And he literally is like, "I'll call this number and press 3 and it'll stop."
And she's like, "You could have had so much. You could have like leveraged this." And he's like, "I didn't want that. It's fine."
Yeah. He's like, "I don't care."
Like, you probably should have, because you're all fucked after this anyway.
Yeah. This
is when the investor comes.
Who's called Brian? He said he's being punished because you got cancer because you screwed me out of money.
It's a wild thing to suggest.
And it's like, well, maybe you should lose all your money.
Yeah.
And then we get kind of a stretch of time passes.
Yeah, so we get Vinny is now going through some sort of chemotherapy or something. He looks very unwell. He's got like a scarf on as if he's lost his hair. And Anton's kind of talking to him about he's got a new idea.
Oh, no, before that.
Oh, no, yeah, the 15
video chat to Mark, who shows that the line is complete and it's done it in 15.73 milliseconds.
Yes, yeah.
And they're like, "It's amazing, we did it. It's obsolete now,
it's obsolete,
but we did it." And it's like, yay, go these guys. They built a line.
Yeah.
They built like a really
the thing
long
is,
line.
surely, because like fiber optics are like the way things are going, generally speaking, maybe microwave technology is better now, I don't know. But surely the fact they've got that line under there still, they could replace that with a new type of, at this point it's obsolete, but maybe it will set the foundation.
Like they could still, maybe it won't earn them billions on the stock market, but they could still probably earn a lot of money from this. Surely.
You could probably sell it to some other company or like a charity or something.
We
probably
got this really long line. Do you want it?
Yes, please.
But yeah, they're happy they did it. But he is very ill.
Yes, and he speaks to Anton. Anton comes to see him, or he's staying with Anton or whatever. And Anton talks to him about this neutrino messaging system, which is we could go through the Earth with a particle accelerator. It all sounds very kind of fantastical idea. I don't know if it's supposed to be.
It can get there in like 9 milliseconds, and I was like, this is a bit weird, because like Vinny's always the one who really wants to do this. Anton's just like a coder who doesn't.
I think the idea is he's giving him a bit of a lease on life, and he's kind of like, "Hey,
and he's like, oh yeah, if we do that, we'd own Wall Street." And he's like, "Then what?" He's like, "And then burn it to the ground." And it's like, when did you guys become anti-stock? Like,
and then he's like, "We can get the lemon farmers and toast marshmallows on the corpse of Wall Street," and it's like. This is not a thread that was going through this film.
No, not at all. No. It made me realise that Anton understands as much about the stock market as we do.
Like, once we're the best, then we can just burn it down.
Yes, that's how Wall Street works.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly. And then the final bit, they go back to the Amish farm.
Yeah, it's just a bit strange because, like, it's kind of like he's making peace with them. So Vinny's come back and the whole time it's like it's storming with rain and the Amish guys are trying to like load some grain sacks or whatever onto
and they help them
get into the barn and the main Amish guy like notices he looks really ill because he looks really ill and he like they have a bit of a chat, but it kind of he says like, "I can get rid of the line, you'll be back to normal," or whatever. But
he said he's already taken out the line.
Oh, he's already taken it out, yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, you guess you can't use it now then.
Yeah, true.
It wouldn't have made any difference, this fucking Amish
I think they were kind of, for some
not.
people, they were like leasing the land. So I guess they can like cut the lease and maybe make a bit of money back or, I don't know. But then they kind of have like a weird existential talk, the two cousins, about like, what you could experience in 16 milliseconds, and it kind of led me to the point where it seemed like he was just gonna like die right there and then.
And there's a weird line where where Vinny's talking about like, oh, what would you experience if you only knew like 16 milliseconds, and Anton's like, oh, you'd probably experience the same as somebody who lived 100 years, and it's like, no, you wouldn't. that's just not true, is it, Anton?
They both love like talking in like big weird conjecture, but they're both kind of idiots, really.
Which is why that explains why they had this big plan that failed.
Yeah. Did we mention the hummingbird connection earlier? I don't know. So when he's talking to the woman in the bar, he says like, I think 16 milliseconds is one flap of a hummingbird's wing.
Yeah.
And that's where the name of the film came from. And we kind of, the final shot is them, the cousins sitting in the barn, and it's raining, but it's slow motion rain, I guess like hummingbird perspective or, slow-mo kind of thing. And it's them kind of from the back. And this is the point where I was like, oh, he's just going to like conk out dead. But it's just kind of, it fades to black and it's just open-ended. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'd like to believe that because he kind of atoned a little bit that he carries on, but it's...
Well, he's not a real person, so it doesn't matter.
But it's cinema. It matters to me.
Quickly on that, the 2 bits of trivia that I did have was Kim Nguyen confirmed that the story is fictional, but that it reflects advances in trading technology.
Boom.
Which fascinating topic.
Boom.
And then it's partly based on Michael Lewis's book Flash Boys, Wall Street Revolt.
Flash Boys.
Michael Lewis also interested. So it's about the same technical advances.
Yeah.
He also wrote The Big Short book, which was made. And it was like, okay,
fair enough.
Who's the guy that wrote The Big Short? And also wrote Moneyball.
Which like, what other books has this guy written that I can make a film about?
So he basically writes books about like interesting stories and developments, financial stuff, and then they make a film of them.
Well, he's got his own Moneyball right there, hasn't he?
Yeah. But yeah, that was a long film.
You know what? I kind of think I enjoyed it more while I was watching it, and then thinking through watching it for the second time through our discussion. Yeah, it was. I
think the same because, like, I think
it was okay.
I kind of the part of the reason I mentioned the Social Network stuff up front because, like, it's well acted, like for the most part. The accents are a bit funny, but generally both Alexander Skarsgård and Jesse Eisenberg are good. The shots are good. It's well directed. It's well edited. Like
there's an interest. The mood is hard to pin down, but they have like little atmospheric bits of music, and there's some nice little needle drops. And like
I get it's meant to be a slow burner, but it's way too long. You could take a lot out of this.
It's like it's an hour and 51 or something, and it could be an hour and 30 easily. Like, and keep some of those interesting little like arty bits in between scenes. Just condense, especially like we say, it's not an autobiographical or even a biographical thing. Cut out some of the nonsense and make it a bit clearer to bloody the plebs like us.
Yeah, Jesus. Like, and it's really annoying that it's not based on a true story.
Yeah.
It really sells it like it is. Like,
I mean, that kind of ruined it for me halfway through this episode, to be honest.
Yeah, that's. I feel like I had to mention it. I'm not going to get through the rest of the episode without mentioning the fact that this is all bullshit.
I wonder what happened to the real guy, and you're like, and then you right now, an hour and 20 minutes into the episode, you're like, oh yeah,
he actually died. Partly because he never existed.
He's not around anymore.
Yeah, but it wasn't very good. Like. It was just dull for a lot of it, and it really, really wanted me to care about the stock exchange, and I just don't.
I think because we haven't been watching things like this for the podcast for a while, I've been watching quite a lot of films over the last 6-7 weeks, but this is very different, as we've said, to Project Icon, even probably stuff we've been watching before, and it's not like it is. It's a better film than a lot of the things we've covered on the podcast. So I think like watching it, I was kind of like, oh, this could be like a 7, 8 kind of thing. And then by the end of it, where it kind of didn't really go anywhere, and then, ripping it apart a bit on here, like, I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking probably like a 5 or a 6.
I was going to give it a 5.
I think I didn't enjoy it enough for it to be a 6.
No, I think it had what is always for me the worst thing you can make of a film, and that is boring. You can have a film that's like really, really shit can be entertaining. Things like Jupiter Ascending, I find entertaining because it's really, really bad. This is worse than that because it's so boring. like I said, it's well directed, well acted. Like some of the story beats are quite interesting. The way the story develops can be interesting, but it's so long and it's about something I don't care about. So it's a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, no, let's go with 5.
If this was based on a true story, it might have been like a 6.
That's the thing. Yeah, I genuinely think that probably would have bumped it up one, and I would have excused a lot of the weird script decisions. But it's just like I could probably. I mean, if we were 0.5, so probably go 4.5. But I think that's too harsh because it was okay. It was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
So it's a solid 5.
I reckon if it was like half hour longer, it'd probably be higher as well. It's
half hour shorter.
Yeah.
Half hour longer, it'd be a 3.
Yeah. Half hour shorter, it might have got a high rating.
Oh no, if it was half hour longer, but it had the old man chasing dreams. 7.
Kind of like a Blade Runner. And have like the director's edit.
With
some weird
and
he's
doing a voiceover. And halfway through his voice gets all squeaky.
But yeah, cool. Yeah. Have you got anything else to say about
No,
this?
I don't. I have nothing else to say about that, and I never will.
Okay, cool. Great. That means it's now time for Personal Projects.
This is one of my personal projects.
So, Sam, what have you been watching, reading, doing, dancing? I don't know why we always stick dancing in there. That's not a thing we never talk about.
It's never been. Oh yeah, I've been dancing a lot recently.
We sometimes dance, but we don't ever talk about it on here. Maybe next time I dance, I'll
make
bring it
sure
up
it comes up.
Yeah, but what have you been doing?
So I mentioned a little while ago that I was getting through some of Mark Millar's back catalogue.
You did?
Because I started reading some of his new comics that were coming out, one of which was Nemesis Reloaded, which was like a redo of a old series. It was all supposed to be building something called Big Game, which is coming out in July. It's not a game. You look at me, right? But it's like it was supposed to be a crossover of all these new titles, and I was like, that sounds fun. I've read some of his stuff in the past, but over the last few months since then, whenever it was, I've been kind of getting into the back catalogue, one of which is Wanted, which I have right here, which I'm going to pass over to Lewis. I don't know why particularly, probably because, I don't know. But have you seen the Wanted film?
No.
Don't watch the film.
I've heard of the band, The Wanted.
Yeah, no, it's nothing to do with them. It's so the film is James McAvoy, and he's like, oh, I'm working an office job and I hate it. And suddenly I'm brought into this world of assassins, and there's assassins that are like running the globe secretly and stuff. In the comic, it is a world of supervillains, to the point that they have costumes and they all have different like powers and stuff like that. They're kind of analogues of, like versions of like Lex Luthor and like Tinkerer and that sort of stuff. And the main premise is the same. He gets brought into this world. He's like a lame guy, and he gets brought in. His dad was like this super cool like killer guy who was the best guy ever, and he dies, and he's been brought in to kind of take his place. And they kind of explain like a couple of issues in that in like 1985, all the supervillains got together and decided to kill all the superheroes. And it's very like, what is it, Old Man Logan, where they all gang together to kill all the heroes. And they then rewrote reality to make it so that superheroes never existed. And all the superhero media we've got is like the like remnant of that, and people like writing it into fiction instead. But all the supervillains exist, but like they're all secret and they never wear their costumes in public, and all the big incidents are all covered up and that sort of thing. And it's quite cool. It's very like edgy. Like there's lots of like, oh, I can do whatever I want. I can have sex with whoever I want. There's lots of talk of like him like being able to do whatever he wants with women, and it gets like shushed up and stuff. And it's a bit like early noughties, like edgy kind of vibes.
Yeah.
So that kind of side of it is like very of its time. But overall, it's quite a fun story.
So is like the main guy also one of these supervillains?
Well, he becomes like, he's basically been taking all this like anti-anxiety medicine his whole life, and it turns out that was like hampering his superhuman like abilities.
Right.
And he goes on a crash course and he becomes like this badass. And like there's little plots between the other supervillains, and like people are trying to do coups and stuff like that. But it kind of ends, it's not really a spoiler, but it ends where he's kind of like, he's on top, and he's like, this is cool. And they have bits where they talk about like going to other universes and stuff. They go on like raids to worlds where there are superheroes, and there's references to like there's a cape that's like a big red cape that's been kept, and it's like, this is Superman's cape, but we can't say Superman kind of thing.
Right.
And it's like there's some cool ideas, and I was like, first of all, it's wild that they took out all of that for the film, but I guess like 2008, I guess it was a little bit crazy for that time.
So like, what is the film?
The film is that they're just assassins, and they secretly dictate the course of world events by assassinating people.
Right.
So it's like really like nothing compared to that at all. Like it's only the part of him going into this secret world that's anything similar at all.
Okay.
And some of the characters have similar names and stuff, but it's a fun film in terms of like they have like Matrix style stuff. It's all about bending bullets and stuff. You've probably heard bits about that. But weirdly enough, so I then finished that. I was like, it's pretty good. Like cool ideas, cool concepts. I carried on reading some of the ongoings now, and I finished Nemesis Reloaded, which is about a like anti-Batman who's just going on a big crime spree, and he's got a vendetta against this guy. It throughout that is telling his backstory, this Nemesis guy's backstory. Last fucking issue, spoilers for everyone who hasn't read this because it only just came out last week. Fucking the main guy of Wanted is his mentor, and it's in the same fucking universe.
Whoa.
And you just see all the guys from Wanted turn up, and they're like, now you're part of our supervillain team, and we're gonna kill all the heroes. And I'm like, what the fucking chances? I've just finished this one. And I was like, fucking damn. And then there's like a tease of Big Game, and it's Wesley, who's the main guy from Wanted, and he's there with the Nemesis guy, and underneath him it's like Kick-Ass. His costume is like in tatters on the floor, like a load of your new characters. And from the looks of the teaser, it's literally every single Mark Millar comic that he owns is all going to be in one fucking big series.
That's kind of insane.
So I'm quite excited about that, to be honest.
When's that due? July?
I think it's July, yeah. So there's a couple other ongoings so all of them are kind of set in universes where superheroes don't exist, which kind of plays into this whole thing. And that's why in Kick-Ass, it's like they're all kind of superheroes, but they're just vigilantes. I guess that's because they killed them all in 1985. It's kind of fun, I guess it was. Yeah. But yeah, like I'm still making my way through some of the others, but I was like, this is very interesting. And whether it goes anywhere, I think it's most of them are like 5 issues, so they're quite contained. And yeah, just like very fortuitous that I managed to go back and read those ones. Because literally, if I'd read that, it doesn't say like Wanted or anything. He wears the same costume right at the end, but it's like,
if you hadn't read that, it would have been like, who are these guys?
Yeah, I would have seen like Kick-Ass's costume and been like, oh yeah, cool. But like, yeah, it was a fun time. It was nice to be like on the pulse with it and be like, this is a fun reveal that I've read in time with everyone else, which like never happens for comics ever.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
And the fact that Millar's got all the stuff with Netflix, like I don't know if this run works well, it might be something that Netflix try and build to in like 10 years time. They could do a Kick-Ass reboot. They could like sow the seeds a little bit more like effectively and maybe do a Wanted series as well. Nice. Take away all the kind of gross parts of it.
It might be bad.
It might be bad. Yeah.
Imagine.
I mean, even if this, say it's 5 issues, like even if it's just like fan servicey, like, hey, here. I mean, it also means I've got to read all of his stuff now. I'm only about halfway through everything.
Getting there though.
Yeah, no, I am. Yeah, I haven't been buying it all physically, but because it's expensive. But yeah, no, it's been a good time. So I'm very excited about that. What have you been watching, reading, dancing?
So I'm trying to think. I think I've had a busy week. I haven't really watched much stuff. Christine's playing the Hogwarts Legacy, so I've been watching.
Oh yeah, what does she get it on?
PS4. She's been waiting for months and months and months for it to come out on that gen.
Previous gen. I keep thinking of it as current and next gen, but PS4 is now previous gen.
I saw someone describe PS3 as retro the other day, and they were like, back when like PS2 came out, we like openly call like Sega like retro, and that's like the same difference in time. Like PS3 was like nearly 20 years ago.
It's wild how like, because the technology it's increasing in terms of like lots of advancements, but like graphically there's certain games that wouldn't be amiss on a PS3 now.
Yeah.
It's harder to tell the difference compared to going back to Sega or something. Yeah,
but yeah, it looks quite fun. I haven't played it, but I've watched loads of it, so I won't go into too much detail. I haven't really. I was going to talk about Eurovision. We did that up front.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. On Saturday, I did go to London though.
Oh yeah,
and did a whiskey and cheese tasting thing at this little pub called Map Maison.
Okay.
In like Islington or something.
Yeah.
And that was quite good fun. We had this guy Patrick who's kind of talked through this Macallan whiskey they had like a 12-year-old, 15-year-old, and 18-year-old one, and it was like you start you off with these cocktails that had like they said it was like the Japanese style. They always have like a whiskey cocktail to start stuff,
right? Okay,
because it's like really easy to drink. It's like you don't have that kind of spiky whiskey.
Yeah,
stuff.
so I guess it warms you up to it a little bit.
Yeah. And like this like 18-year-old bottle that we had, it's worth like 350 quid or something, and it was like fuck me. But yeah, and then like had like part of the 12, 15, and 18 with like a cheese that paired it. So like
nice,
a bit of the whiskey and like because they have like different flavors, the different years. So it's like the 12-year one had like a ginger infused whiskey. The 15-year one was like a charcoal.
Because it's like the barrels cheese and stuff as well, isn't it? Yeah.
And then it was like a jalapeno cheese. So they're all like cheddar cheese infused with different things.
Cool.
They were really nice. And then had some like chicken skewers and potato rusties, and then another cocktail, and went on our way. And it was like
that sounds good.
It was a Christmas gift from Christina to me on one of those like voucher things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like
I've never really
fun.
done it. The only thing we on the stag do we did last year, we did the distillery
tour that had no whiskey.
It was what was it? It hadn't been around for long enough to be classified as
it needs
whiskey,
to be like 3 years aged to be a whiskey.
And it was still a very new. So it was like spirits rather than.
They had lots of gin.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's quite fun, and like you see like this. It's in like a pub. So there's like it's just a pub. We kind of had our own like booth. Yeah, and the guy would come over and.
So is it just you two doing it like privately?
Yeah, essentially.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay.
Yeah, so we just sat at this table. We'd come around and put up a chair and talk through it all. Talk about like the history of whiskies and like the different areas of Scotland and what they're different. This is I can't remember what it's called. A specific area of whiskey compared to like a Highland whiskey. It was like just really interesting.
Yeah,
and it was like,
cool,
yeah, it's cool. We were probably there for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like trying different bits. It's one of those things where you're like tiny little sip, tiny little sip, because you don't want to just neck it and be like, yeah, good. Because it's like
yum.
Yeah, each one of these sips costs like a lot of money.
Oh, that's cool though. Yeah, no, yeah, like I said, I've never done anything quite like that. I would be interested at some point. And you also kind of normally associate wine with cheese a little bit more, so it's quite an interesting pairing there.
Because it's all like cheddar cheeses, so it was less of a range of cheese, but it's more like what they were infused with, like bringing out. Because it was like I always think like the whole like wine and cheese tasting is a little bit bullshit. You're there to get pissed and eat cheese.
Yeah.
But it was one of those where you taste whiskey, you're like, oh yeah, this is nice. You can kind of taste this, and this. And then you have the cheese. You kind of cleanse your palate with some water. Have the cheese and the whiskey, and you're like, this tastes like quite different. Yeah. Like, and it brings out like different things.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of that with the drop of the water in it to aerate it, or the sip of the water before.
Like the 15-year one, we actually had 2 different cheeses. There was a charcoal one. I can't remember what the other one was. But the other one, when you have that with the whiskey, it's just like these two complement each other like so well. They seem like made for each other. And then the charcoal one is like, there's a whole different thing going on here. Like, it's an eventful this is an eventful party going on here. But like, yeah, it was really good, and the whiskey was really nice, so like that helps.
Yeah, I do find like the food science side of things very, very interesting, because even in terms of just what we think of as basic cooking, there's whole levels of thought and schooling going into lots of, even like the way that you cut onions 2 different ways can affect the way they cook, and it affects the way they release flavors. And I find like the drink side of that very interesting. I don't know.
It's like it's a science, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
It was interesting how like the 18-year-old one, like it was really nice, and you have it with the jalapeno cheese, and like the flavors so much like spikier and like stronger. You're like, oh shit. Yeah, that was good fun. And then went straight from that to Eurovision. So was well on my way.
So with Eurovision, we talked about it a bit earlier, but you said you didn't have like specific countries given to it. Wasn't like a sweepstakes.
No, we were thinking about doing that, but I think because we like panicked and realized it had already started, we were like, fuck it, we'll just put together like I made a spreadsheet. It's just put in your ratings. Had a little bit of a comments on the side that were good fun reading it.
Was there any particular big like disagreements about like opinions on certain acts, or was it all very like
kind of? But because a lot of it's kind of like cheesy stuff, it's like
a lot of it is quite similar, isn't it? There's a specific vibe to
it's either like cheesy ballads, cheesy Europop, or like cheesy rock. That's it.
I feel like when I've watched it this year compared to like the last time I properly watched it was probably more than 5 years ago. Like there's much more kind of dancey stuff in it now, isn't there? Like even the more ballady songs have like the Israeli one where she's like, now watch me dance, and then there's just like the like dance break with like fucking
Christine
EDM.
Commented, she was like, I wonder how much of this is like inspired by like TikTok and stuff, with everyone making up TikTok dances and things like that. But yeah, it was good fun.
What was the one that was like the kind of political parody song of like the older guys doing like the anti-war thing? Where was that?
What was it?
That was one that stood out because it was very different to the rest of them.
Yeah, there was. I can't remember. There was some like weird ones on there. I'm just found out in my spreadsheet. My favorites were Finland, Australia, Norway, Germany, Slovenia, and Croatia. Apparently, the ones I gave the highest rated to.
So I missed Sweden because it was an early one. So it was only at the performance at the end when she really.
Bloody boring. What did I give Sweden? A 6?
Oh no, I didn't realise as well, because we missed her originally on, that she'd won like in 2012.
Yeah, and her song in 2012, Euphoria, is a good. Yeah, it's a good Eurovision.
I recognised that one when we.
I read a Reddit discussion thread, and it was like Finland, who had 2 good songs in one performance, comes second to a person who had 1 good song across 2 performances. And it was like, I've seen some people say about like, previous winners shouldn't be allowed to compete again. Well, it's like, she's kind of already got that inbuilt.
I mean, fandom. I do like the whole bringing it home for Sweden for ABBA's anniversary, all that. That's.
I think that's part of the reason.
Because I was wondering,
she won it on like judges' votes.
Well, that's it. Yeah, because she had such a landslide with the judges' votes. Like historically, is it normally that cut and dry? Because obviously it wasn't. She wasn't a sure thing at the end of the judges, but she was so far ahead. It would have been like she had a foot up.
This is a new thing in the last like 2 or 3 years where they've split the judges and the public votes.
I did think it was different.
It used to not be judges at all. Right. It used to just be public votes. So that bit where they go around giving the points. That's it. So when you can kind of see the table progressing. But I think it's because there was so much like political voting. Yeah, they were like, we're going to introduce this thing so it's half
because
public,
everyone was voting for Russia.
Everyone's voting for their neighbours. It's always the classic thing. I remember you playing it and being like, "Oh, you have to drink if a country gives 12 points to a neighbouring country." Sort of thing. But yeah, because of that, it's now split between the two, and then obviously they just add on a chunk of points at the end. Yeah, because it's a drawn out process. Yeah, but I don't know which system's better. I think maybe just like combine them and do it all as one.
Because it was kind of like it made it way, because like I said, I kind of stopped watching for about half an hour, 40 minutes of that part there, because I was like I'm happy to just see the result. I don't need to see each individual bit. I know that's kind of like even the commentary was like, this is where it gets dramatic, like, and all that. And it's like, I get that if you're really into it, if this is like your sport of the year, fine. Like I get people are really into it like that, but for the average watcher, it's like, all right, well, tell me when the next bit's on.
Yeah. Did you see the bit when Catherine Tate was on there doing the UK's points? And she was hammered, right?
Also, her dress was fucking pushing up right there. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was funny. It was a good show. It's Eurovision, isn't it? But I haven't really got anything else to talk
that's
about,
all right.
So...
No, we've made good time. So I've got other bits, but we will be recording again fairly soon. So
save it for then.
Save it for then.
So thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, as always, please give 5 stars on whatever you're listening to. I know a lot of you have, so that's very appreciated. If you haven't, please do it. It only takes a couple of seconds, so go ahead and do it. If you want to talk about the Hummingbird Project or got any suggestions for anything else, you can contact us directly.
Yes, you can. If you want to find us via email, you can send us an email at theprojectpod@gmail.com. If you want to find our social medias, they're all in the link tree in the episode description. So if you want to suggest, like Lewis said, the thing that we cover next week, or probably not next week, probably the week after, if you've got any things we could cover for Silver Screen Project, you can suggest them there as well. But if you just want to see when new episodes are arriving or when new clips are dropping, you can find it on those social medias as well.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think that is the episode.
Yes, thank you for listening. I will hear you next week.
And I'll see you at the Kansas Electronic Exchange Parlor.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.